Okay. So, like I said, okay, so we're going to start at the very beginning because all you've seen is my lips move. So, this is Extreme Talk presented by Complete Wealth Management and Complete Real Estate, your one stop shop for financial coaching and asset management. We're also brought to you by Fairlife Core Power Protein, right here, Work Hard, Recover Harder, and by Brent Atkinson with Reichart Realtors, the Realty Group. James Shannon, Isaiah Austin, not on the show today, so pulling a solo, but we have an awesome lineup of coaches coming on. At Here in just a minute, we'll bring on Coach Ferguson. He is from Southwest Christian Academy, Little Rock, Arkansas. 4:45, we've got Charlie Dare. He's the head coach at North River Christian out of Alabama, just outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I believe. Yep, Backstraps has some build out of Tuscaloosa. 5 o'clock, we'll bring on Coach Josh Elliott. He is the head coach of Cary Christian out of North Carolina. And he is out of Cary, out of Cary, North Carolina. They are the defending NCISA Big Eight champions, or Colonial Carolina. I believe it's one of the two. So we will clear that up with him. And then at 5:15, we'll bring in Coach Jeremy Boskin. He's the brand new head coach at Tri-Cities Christian. But we're going to jump straight into it. And joining me now is Coach Greg Ferguson. He is entering his 5th season at Southwest Christian. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
So, Coach, for those that aren't familiar with yourself and with Southwest Christian, let's just start right up at the top and kind of familiarize everybody with yourself and your team.
Yeah, so I'm entering my 5th season here at Southwest Christian Academy. I came on 2018 as a defensive coordinator and just to kind of help out, and then 2019 I took over as a head coach, and so from 2019 all the way on till now, I've been kind of leading the Lions, as the head coach, and so yeah, that's kind of where we were. We joined. What was that? Oh,
Video's froze, but audio's fine, so you're good,
joined
Coach.
the Heartland Conference, 5 years ago, and it was a new experience and a lot of bad things. Learning how to play in a new league, and just got our butts kicked quite a bit. But now
Right.
we're kind of on the other side of that. So.
And I wanted to ask you about Heartland. Of course, one of the conferences that has teams in Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. You even have a team in Mississippi. What are some of the differences in the game, the way the game is played between those states that you've been able to see?
Um, Usually the differences that we find is the sportsmanship rules. They tend to change when you go from Oklahoma to Louisiana, because in Arkansas, the sportsmanship rule is once you get up, the play clock keeps going. You go over in Oklahoma, and once you get up by a certain amount, the game stops. So I think that's the big difference.
Right.
Just some of the rule changes. Um, that we've kind of faced a little bit. And probably the second thing is just weather. Every time we go up to Oklahoma, it's always windy, and trying to figure out how to play in wind and pass in the wind can be a little challenging as well. So.
Now, Coach, I know that, of course, you look here in the South and with with football in general, the big the big bullseye that everyone's looking for is Friday night, 7 o'clock or 7:30 or somewhere in there that everyone's like, okay, that's when we're going to play high school football. But you guys have to do things a little bit differently, and I know there's other teams in that conference that have to do things differently. So what are some of the unique struggles and challenges that you guys have to overcome throughout the season?
I think the big struggles are is the away games. We are. I think last year alone we had 5 different games in Oklahoma, and so it was 4.5 hour bus ride going there and coming back, and I think that's the big challenge. Like how do you prepare your team and leave at 10 a.m. and 5 hours later you're in a new city,
Right.
and then rolling out of a bus at 5, trying to get ready by 7 for a football game, and that provides unique challenges and just trying to get your body back ready. Um, that's I mean that's one of the unique challenges of being an 8 man and playing in a league with kind of so far away. So we had we just had a ton of away games last year, a lot of them in Oklahoma. So just trying to get our bodies ready to play when you've been in a van for about 4.5 hours. So that's probably the unique challenge of just when you're playing opponents so far away.
Yeah, for sure. And I know here like in this area at times there's been coaches that complained about a stinking 2 hour drive, whereas you guys are looking at a 4.5 hour. That's wild. I know I've heard of coaches that have done have had trips like that. You stop halfway and do a walkthrough just to stretch the legs out. But I'm sure that every situation's a little bit differently. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Those challenges are unique, but last year really our team did a good job just thinking above it and just trying to play the best game that they can, and so last year we just had to adapt and overcome quite a bit, and our team did a good job with that.
Now, coming back from last year, focusing on this year, um, you do have Stewart coming in as a junior. How awesome is it to be able to have your quarterback that has experience from last year at such a young age, and then know that Lord willing, you'll have him for another 2 years. How awesome is it to have that kind of peace of mind that you're not going to be changing quarterback every year?
Yeah, um, yeah. I think just this year is going to be last year we had a pretty good team, and we lost 4 seniors on that team. Two of them, one of them was our had 100 tackles uh, in the last year, and just we lost some good athletes, and so this year kind of restocking. I feel like every year we talk about restocking, and some of the other coaches around the league, we always talk about how how we may be losing a bunch of players, but we're just trying to figure out how to restock again for next year, and so luckily our team was not heavy senior wise. We're probably heavy more now juniors and sophomores. So that's kind of the core of our team, and so we didn't lose too much from our championship run, but we have a good I guess junior senior or junior sophomore team this year. So we're still relatively young, but kind of getting on the uh, next year will be a whole different because we'll graduate a whole bunch of people. So
Right. Now, though, the players you're talking about losing, obviously, everyone knows about James Stewart, and there's another name. I'm not going. I'm going to let you say his first name first because I do not want to butcher it. You know who I'm talking about? Number 12, Tucker. T-
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
I said there's you talk about guys that you lost from last year, and you talked about the impact that talk about the impact that they had. Obviously, you have James Stewart, number 2, which I'm guessing is the older brother, quarterback's older brother.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So, the guys we lost was our number one wide receiver and number one tackler, who for the last 2 years had over 100 tackles season. He's like buck 60, and he was my defensive tackle, but he was just aggressive and just could tackle everyone. But the good thing is, um, with our we had to play a bunch of freshmen last year, and so with at wide receiver, and so some of those guys they gotten they've gotten a taste of just playing 12 games and playing in places they haven't played. And
Right.
so now as sophomores they've been in the weight room, they've been ready and probably more hungry. And then luckily, I have my junior quarterback Thomas Stewart, who he's been playing for me since eighth grade. So eighth grade he
Oh
was a
wow.
running back, and freshman year I told him he needs to play quarterback, and now he's a quarterback sophomore year. So he threw for about 1,500 yards, ran for 600 yards. So I mean, we'll have the offensive power still. So, yeah, we lost some of our offensive power, but I think this year we got a new guy coming on board as wide receiver, and so I think we'll still have the offensive power with changing how we run our offense. So it'll be a whole little bit different ball game, but I think we're still poised and positioned to have a very good season, and our boys have worked hard, and it's always tough to lose people, but we believe that the people that will come after, they'll help us and be a little step ahead because they've had to go against some of these guys. So
Now, just pure personal curiosity, number 14. I'm not going to try to say his first name. I don't want to butcher it. What is his? How do you pronounce that?
I'm
You're
sorry I didn't hear that.
Your number 14 from last year. Just curiosity. How do you pronounce his first name? I don't want to butcher it. Um,
I'm sorry, I still didn't get that.
Number 14 from last year. Can you hear me? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I'm sorry. It's muffled.
It's muffled. Okay. Number 14 from last year. Audrey, we good?
I just can't hear the question.
Hang on just a second.
I,
Can you,
I,
can you hear me a little bit better?
he's far away, so I just can't hear it.
Oh, okay. Here, let me bring the mic in just a little bit. Is that a little bit better? A little bit clearer? All right. Well, we'll keep going. Is it still pretty muffled, Coach? Is it still muffled a little bit? All right. Well, um, Coach, if you can hear me, we'll step away for just a second. Audrey, maybe try to call him back and see if see if that clears it up a little bit. Okay. We'll call you right back, Coach. All right, it's Coach Greg Ferguson from Southwest Christian. We're gonna see if we can't get him back on here in just a second. Maybe see if we will clear it up a little bit. Um, I wanted to try to get the pronunciation. I'm gonna try it. Tavoise. Nope. I'm not. I know I
Hello?
butchered it. All right,
Yeah.
Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I got you.
All right, there we go. All right. I said personal curiosity number 14 from last year. How do you pronounce his first name?
Oh, number 14, Tavasier Tucker.
Tavase. Okay. I saw his name, and I know we don't have to call it or talk about it this year, but I did want to give him a shout out because I saw he was one of your top
No,
players last year.
well, that's the sad thing. He was a senior last year, so we will not see him again on the sideline. So
Oh man, that's tough. But it is awesome. You were talking before they're just a second ago. You were talking about your quarterback. That's awesome. You've been able to have him for 2 years, and you'll have him, for the future for a couple years, hopefully. Coach, when you look at your schedule this upcoming season, compare and some of the matchups you guys have, who are one, whether it's one or multiple teams that you kind of circle and go, okay, we really, and obviously every conference game is important. Every game is important. Every conference game is important. But are there any games that you're specifically circling and go, I really, really, really want to focus on this game?
yeah, I think the big thing is, we got Arkansas Christian Academy. They're literally like 10 minutes down the road,
Oh, wow.
uh, and that's a big deal for us. And we circle that. I tell the kids during that week we don't call them by their name. It's just the team down south. So just try to have a little fun. We love playing them, but there was a time where they last year was the first time we beat them in a 4 year span. So
Oh,
they
wow.
had our numbers for the last 4 years, and our seniors they went all the way up to their senior year before they beat them. And so
Wow.
that was a big deal for us. That was the first game of the season for us. And so that's the team that we got to win. We got to beat them. Um, but then you got Abundant Life, who they're about 25 minutes north of us, and so they got our number a couple of times. So we want to go up there and We want to take care of business up there as well. Um, and we got Destiny Christian. That is the cream of the crop in our division. I mean, they're good every year.
Defending champs, if
And
I'm not
so,
mistaken.
what was that?
Defending champs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, Destiny. It's a measuring stick game for us.
Right.
We're going to go out there and we're gonna see what we can do against them. Um, and really, that's a measuring stick of where we're at in our conference and how we can just take those steps to that next level.
So I see that you guys are playing. At least Max Preps has you guys playing Arkansas Christian twice. Are do you circle it more when you play them? What you mentioned this being a massive rivalry game. In 10 minutes away, playing them at home versus playing them away. Which one are you more not concerned with? Is not the right word, but interested in.
I'm sorry. What was that now?
Is there one between with Arkansas Christian playing them at home and away? Um,
Yeah.
whichever place you're playing, which one is the one that I don't want to say that you're not concerned with, but which one are you kind of really honed in on, or is it just a week to week? Hey, we want to beat them there and at our place.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. With ACA. I want to beat them twice, and I want to beat them as hard as we can.
There you go.
I mean, we don't, and that's the thing. We'll play them. I think they're the second game of the season, and so we want to give our fans a good show, and then we want to go down there on their home field and give our fans another good show, and just kind of double up on them. And so they've been brutal to us the last 4 years, so I figured, like we can keep doing it a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And one other question. With Arkansas 8-man, we talked a little bit about Arkansas Christian, and you mentioned Abundant Life. Are those the only 8-man teams there, other than the public schools? I know there's some public schools that play 8-man. But are those the only private or Christian schools? And then who has the biggest rivalry out of the three of you guys?
You're talking about just Arkansas 8-man in general?
Yeah, just in general, the teams that play 8-man in Arkansas. Like I said, I know there's some public schools that where AAA has sanctioned it. But are you three the only Christian schools or private schools that play it?
Yeah. Well, in our division, mainly Christian schools. Arkansas 5 years ago finally introduced 8-man.
Right.
And so they started with two divisions, 2A and 3A, and it was still a club sport. So up until last year, they finally, for the 2A division, 8-man, they finally made it a varsity sport.
Oh, wow.
So last year you had Mountain Pine and Strong. They went after it in the state championship for the first time ever. And that game was 66-60. If you ever want to watch an instant classic, just pull that one up. And it went into several overtimes, but yeah, 8-man football, like with the AAA, is super brand new, and so they have, I think they have 12 teams in the 2A division and another 8 to 10 in 3A, and so I think the 3A is still a club sport, but I think a lot of times those 3A teams, they'll jump down to 8-man to recoup, try to get their roster back up to an 11-man
right.
sport, and then they'll jump back up to 11-man. So, and people ask that all the time, why are you in this division? Well, we've been playing 8-man a lot longer than 5 years.
Right.
So our school's been around for 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
And so there was never 8-man football in Arkansas, so we always had to go somewhere else.
Right.
When we first started, it was I think the ACS or something, and a lot of those schools don't have football anymore. So that's why we jumped down to the Heartland Christian HCAA conference.
Gotcha. Now, obviously, last question. Your conference, Heartland Conference, has teams in multiple states. We talked about that. But is there a team in another state that I don't want to say you want to call them out, but is there a team in another state that you look at and go, or is there just another state in general that you've seen 8-man there and maybe you're interested in trying to match up with one of those teams?
Yeah, I think when we look at teams from just different states, a lot of times, I'm perusing through their max preps and just trying to figure out who they are, type thing, and sometimes it's a challenge playing teams from different states because, man, let me tell you, you go down to Louisiana, man, they got some big old boys on that 8-man roster,
Oh yeah,
and I'm thinking, man, where do these guys come from? And so you go to these states, and man, some of these states just got some big old boys on that roster, and makes you a little scared a little bit. So
right. Well, this is your chance. If there's anybody that you would like to play, maybe try to get them to come to Arkansas, or maybe you go to them. Is there anybody you'd like to call out and try to get a game with?
uh, yeah, no, I mean, we got Cornerstone, who's they're in Missouri, and
Right.
they here's the deal, like they can hit, and I know their coach, and just they're getting their team ready, and I mean they're going to be better this year than they were last year. So I think that game is going to be really a challenge for us because they're going to be a better team, and we've gotten the best of them the last 2 years, and so it's going to be a challenge for our boys to kind of get a different mindset to think about playing them because they're going to come ready for a war, and we got to get ready for it because I don't think that game's going to come easy. They love to hit, they hit hard, and really kind of get in your face. And I know and so that's gonna be a good game to watch. I think just as they're coming to Little Rock, so that's gonna be a good game to watch. And I don't know how it will turn out, but I guess we'll have to see.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Coach, and sorry about all the issues we had, but it was awesome to hear you talk about your team and the conference. Just kind of get to know Arkansas 8 Man in general. I think a lot of people think about 8 Man, and of course, everyone knows about it being in the Midwest, and you know about it being in the South. But there's some of these in between areas that you don't even think about. But you're there and you're playing, and Abundant Life. Last year they played Sacred Heart out of Jackson, Tennessee, West Tennessee. So we'll have to get you guys involved more, and maybe get you down to Florida or get you to play somebody else at some point.
Well, that sounds great, man.
Well, I appreciate it, Coach, and good luck on your season this year.
All right, thank you guys so much. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. That's Coach Greg Ferguson from Southwest Christian in Little Rock. And talk about, I didn't realize that. I mean, I saw Arkansas Christian being in Bryant, and then you've got Abundant Life being in North Little Rock. So pretty close for all three of those teams. And then again, Heartland Conference is what they play, and we talked about that when we talked about Arkansas. You got teams in several different states. Heartland Conference has got Trinity Christian out of Oklahoma. You've got the Cornerstone Spartans out of Joplin, Missouri. You've got Unity Christian out of Leland, Mississippi. Destiny Christian out of Del City, Oklahoma. They are the defending conference champions. And then you have Cross Christian out of Yucca, Oklahoma. So teams all over the place, a lot of travel, and like I told Coach, it cracks me up when people complain about 2 hours of travel, and you've got some of these other teams that are traveling 4.5 hours for games. It's wild. It's something else. But Southwest Christian is one of the teams to keep an eye on. Of course, last year went 6-6, and let me pull up their schedule from last year. Got knocked out in looks like the second round of the playoffs with Claremore Christian knocking them out, but rolled through the season 6-6, and they had when they won big, and when they lost big. But hey, that's how it goes sometimes. So we'll be keeping an eye on them throughout the season. One of those teams that we will kind of tell you how their games went every week, as we will with a lot of different teams. That's what we're going to do this year. We're gonna cover 8-man football just in general. I mentioned later on that we're going to talk about the Jamboree. We're going to preview the Jamborees coming up this Friday night and Saturday night. Like I said, 2 happening on Friday, and then 1 happening on Saturday, or day 2 of the CCS Jamboree happening on Saturday. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But Coming up here in a couple minutes, we'll go ahead and get him on the phone. We've got the head coach for North River Christian out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Coach Charlie Dare. Like I said, we'll bring him on here in a second. But, again, I want to thank the sponsors, the people that make this show possible. Of course, you've got Fairlife Core Power Protein. This is Extreme Talk, presented by Complete Wealth Management, Complete Real Estate. And then we're also brought to you by Brent Atkinson with Weichart Realtors, the Realty Group. So really, really thankful and appreciate them getting on board and helping us make this happen. But talk about North River just a little bit here for a second before we bring Coach Dare on. Last season, of course, the last 4 seasons, they have been an independent team. They were 11-man in the AISA. Last season went 3-5, and then earlier this offseason, the AISA decided to bring in 8-man. And if you get a chance to, you can go on their YouTube channel. I don't remember what the name of the channel is, but the AISA recently or not AISA. It was a radio station. They had some media days, and I think it's for the Auburn area. So they had Springwood Academy, who's coming into 8-man for the first time. And then they also had Southern Prep, which is the second year Southern Prep has been in there. But they also had the AISA director talking about bringing in 8-man for this year. And he was very complimentary. I thought Springwood Academy, their guys that represented them, I don't think the head coach was there. It was the assistant, a couple players. They did a great job representing the school. And then, of course, Southern Prep, you had Coach Roland Bell, a couple of his players there. So they did a good job representing. So if you get a chance, go catch that. It's a good listen. But joining us now from North River Christian out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm trying to think of a good intro. He is going into his second year as the head coach. He was at North River early on, then came back last year. First year as the head coach. It's Coach Charlie Dare. Coach, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, no problem. I can hardly hear you. I'm sorry.
All right. Let's see if we can't. Let's see if we can't get that, Audrey. Let's see. Is it a little bit better there, Coach? Is it a little bit clearer?
I can. Yeah, it's like you're in the bottom of the barrel. I'm sorry. I just can't hear you.
Bottom of the barrel. I might have to try that. Let's see. Audrey, we might try a couple unplugging and plugging in. Maybe see if that gets it. Let's, Coach, we're going to step away for just a second, and we'll bring you right back on. All right. Can you?
No, you're clear, but I can't hear him any better.
Let's see. Maybe it is a connection with the headset. Possibly. Is it clear on your headset, Audrey? Yeah, he can hear you clear.
Yeah, you're great.
Can you hear me pretty clear, Audrey, or is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, let's do this, Audrey. Let's see if we can swap headsets, and maybe that will help the issue.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, Coach, is that a little bit better?
I can hear you. Yeah, I heard you say, is that a little bit better? But it's still, yeah, we can try it. I may be able to make out what you're saying.
Okay. Well, if I can get this cord untangled. Like I said, Coach Charlie Dare, he is from North River Christian out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they are going into their first year of play in the AISA. AISA just bringing on 8-man this season. Coach, you guys have been independent for a while. How excited are you to be able to be in a conference environment and a structured environment and have some postseason and have a championship to play for?
I believe you're asking me. I'm sorry, it's just not clear, but about being in a structured league now.
Yes, sir.
We're excited to be in the AISA. It's something. When I came here last season, we only had 8 games scheduled. I believe they finished the year with only 9 players the year before, and so we came in knowing that we had a challenge ahead of us, just to change some culture and what we're trying to do. And so, I believe that we have been successful in making them understand that, we're here to compete for championships, to win games, ultimately to glorify God in all we do while we're doing that. And so now with the 10-game schedule, new league, something to play for, it's not about championships. When you have guys that really haven't been focused on that, I've been trying to get them to focus on, each second, each day, each minute, each weight session, whatever we're doing, 7-on-7s, and then moving them along on the path towards that championship. And so it's been a great experience with these guys, and just looking forward to a great season.
Can you hear me a little bit better?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me just a little bit better?
No, you're about the same.
Okay. All right. Well, we're getting
I'm
a couple.
sorry we're having this.
No, it's all good. It's on our end. We're getting some kinks worked out. I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's see. So coming off of last year, of course, you guys didn't have the biggest roster, but you do have a lot of guys coming back. Talk about some of the guys who you're looking to step up this year and take a leadership role.
With our quarterback, Zach Williams, he is a guy that last year was his first year playing quarterback. He had never played that position, and last year he rewrote our record books at North River.
Oh, wow.
You see a guy on the field, you know that he is a natural-born leader, someone that is a natural athlete. And when he's got a red, white, and blue headband on and, he's just running around with his hair on fire, immediately that's your quarterback.
For sure.
So we're very excited about him. We have a lot of skill this year that have just blossomed over the off season. A lot of guys adding a lot of the muscle and just developing their game away from the weight room, going to extra things that we've asked them to go to, and getting that football knowledge. But a lot of guys that are seniors. Like last year, I had one senior, Willie Scott. This year, I believe I've got 7 or 8 seniors, and
oh, wow.
So Zach Williams is definitely someone that's leading that charge. But I've got a lot of great guys, and so my goal has been to not go both ways. Obviously, in 8-man football, if you can avoid that and be more competitive later in the game, that's a plus. And so we've done our job this summer of really getting into our school, finding some kids that maybe didn't play that for one reason or another, guys moving in and some homeschool guys. So, we're really trying to beef up our roster and really have an opportunity in a later game situation where we're not just wore out.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, your conference opponents this year, you guys didn't face any of them last year.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Your conference opponents this year, I don't believe you played any of them last year.
Correct. Yeah, brand new conference. Don't know a lot about who we're playing. I'm still learning right now and studying those teams.
Are there any games that you kind of look at and you've circled right now, whether they're conference or not, that you're kind of highlighting to your guys as obviously every game is must-win game, but any games that you're specifically looking at?
Well, without being specific, we have several teams that played 11-man schedule last year, and now they're coming back to 8-man football.
Right.
And with my guys, we're just focused on us. As far as what I communicate with them, and just taking it that one game at a time, the old cliche, and not looking forward. We're not. Our program is not in a place right now that we can afford to look forward.
Right.
Every game we play is the biggest game of the season, as it should be with any football program, but especially when you're trying to change culture, change attitude, and get these guys to understand that, we're not where we're going to be, but we're not where we were.
Right.
And so I'm excited to play in this league now, have something to play for. I am not afraid of, we have some teams on our schedule that a couple that, we may not compete against as I would like us to. But that's what I want to show these kids. This is where we're going. And, what do they say? If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
For sure.
And so trying to show these kids that, adversity definitely breeds success later on, and how to handle that. And, we're just climbing the ladder and really changing mindset. And so that's what I'm really focused on right now.
Do you guys have any rivalry game, any big rivalries that you've developed over the last couple of years, or maybe one that just came up, maybe even last year, that you guys are looking forward to?
We don't yet. I used to coach back in 2000, early 2000s, and we had the Tuscaloosa Christian, and we had a bunch of games that we enjoyed playing against them and some other teams. But right now, unfortunately, North River Christian was the homecoming game, if you will.
Right.
And so again, no rivalries at this time. We're just trying to say it's a new day. When you show up at Charger Park, you're going to get, hopefully more than you bargained for. And whether it's our team performing better, our facilities, looking first class. We've remodeled our stadium, remodeled our weight room, remodeled our locker rooms. Our field looks outstanding. Coach Lynn Dockery has done a great job on our turf, and just representing Christ in the locker room for the visitors team. We provide them with snacks and scripture and all those kind of things, and just to be welcome them in, and so there's a lot of things we're doing, to create an environment that's not only something that our fans and players can be proud of, but that when our competition shows up, hey, we're not a Bush League program anymore, and not that they were before. We're just trying to raise the standards so that we can be proud of what we're doing and putting a good product out there.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of an advantage is it to have your own place that you guys can develop and have a true home field experience? I know there's several teams that have to rent fields, and it's hard to create that real home field advantage. How awesome is it to have that opportunity?
Well, it is a great opportunity with the home field advantage, and we are playing in the facilities where American Christian Academy used to have their school and their facilities,
Right.
called Charger Park. And so we have our baseball, softball, and football field all in the same location, only about a mile and a half from our campus. And so that's good. And, we've really tried to make it our home and take pride in it. And so, yeah, that's great. We have a good turnout. Our fans turn out, and they always have. Back in the early 2000s when I was here, it was a full stands. And so that really, gets the guys fired up. And we appreciate the support from the fans. And hopefully we'll, give them something to cheer about this year.
Now, well, last question, Coach, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know AISA, when they had there was a media days in the Auburn area, and they had the director. He was talking about the championship, and they're still trying to nail that down. Of course, you guys' season ends there at the end of October, and then you would have some playoffs, but you would have a little bit of a layoff if you guys played your state championship when 11-man does. Would you rather have that break, or would you rather go ahead and play it and get it out of the way?
Yeah, I'm a go ahead and play guy. I think any layoff, obviously, it can be managed, and if you've been a coach long enough, you've been through these situations. I've been doing this since 1993, and so but anytime you stop, and I like an open week, but it does take you time to get you guys back focused in what they're doing. And so I'm all about just let's keep rolling and keep the guys focused but managing their work output and in those times later on in the season. You got to know when the legs are tired, when to back off a little bit. So yeah, I'm not a layoff guy. I'm ready to go, and let's get it on.
I slightly lied. Last question. And you might not have an answer for me, and that's cool. If you guys have a great season, let's say you guys are able to go ahead and play state, or you just have a great season, and you guys are one of the top teams in the AISA. I don't know how their rules line up. I know Southern Prep has discussed possibly doing it. Is there a chance that we could try to get you that not we could try because we don't run it? Is there a chance we could see you guys in Florida at the national tournament?
You know what? You're right. I don't have an answer for that. There's always a chance. You just have to see how the season goes, and if there's another championship, if there's something else to play for, and we can do it as a school, I'm sure we would absolutely entertain that. If I can create more opportunities for my seniors, to have that one more game or win one more, trophy to take home, that'd be great. But yeah, that's way on down the old road there, and right now all I'm focused on is this first game on Ezekiel. So
well, to quote the old movie, to quote the old movie, so you're telling me there's a chance. That's all I'm looking for. But Coach, great to talk to you, and good luck on the rest of your season. We're excited to see how you guys do, and also just see how 8-man with AISA goes. And some of these schools came down from 11 or have been independent. I think we're set up for a really, really fun season.
Well, I didn't quite hear you, but I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I said good luck on your season. I'm excited to see how it goes with AISA and some of the 11-man schools come down. It looks like we're set up for a fun season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that, and I'm really appreciate you having us on, and look forward to having you at our place.
Appreciate you, Coach. We're looking forward to it.
That's all right, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. That's Coach Charlie Dare from North River Christian, Tuscaloosa. Their conference opponents, like I said a couple weeks ago when we talked about Alabama, we ran through them, but I'll go through them again real quick. Cornerstone Christian, Meadowview Christian, Southern Prep Academy, Evangel Christian, Springwood, and all 5 of those other conference games coming at the end of the season. So Coach loading up his conference schedule there at the back end, but early on in the season they do play Ezekiel, who competed for the ACSC state championship last year. They went to Florida. You had East Central, who was in the ACSC, and then Lighthouse Homeschool as well. And then Trinity Christian, a independent team, or they play in CFA, I believe. Yeah, they're in CFA. So a couple non-conference games to start out the year, and then they jump right into that conference schedule. So really, really excited, and we'll go ahead and get Coach Elliott set up. Like I mentioned here at 5, we're going to bring Coach in. We're just rolling through coaches. We're just talking to coaches, getting a feel for 8-man football in general. So, and I do apologize about the issues. Still hammering out some stuff. Still getting it figured out. But we'll get it squared away, and we'll make it work. So we'll get there. But little bit about Cary Christian because you folks may know about 8-man in Arkansas. You may know about 8-man in Alabama. North Carolina's got 8-man football. It is sanctioned by the NCISA, which is the association there in North Carolina. It's actually the NCISAA. In the Cary Christian, I mentioned I didn't know if they're in the Big 8, and they did win the Big 8 championship last year, a 9-2 record. They ended up beating John Paul II Catholic School for the title, and I believe we gave them a shout out last year. But we had a great season last year. But joining me now, going into, I literally wrote it down. I should have wrote it down. I know. Going into his second year as the varsity head coach after several years helping with JV, his second year as the varsity head coach, it's Coach Josh Elliott from Cary Christian in Cary, North Carolina. Coach, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Hey, thanks for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
Can you hear me pretty good?
I can hear you okay. I can make it out.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, Coach, for those that aren't familiar with yourself and your school, let's go ahead and get everybody kind of acquainted with it.
Oh, I didn't catch that last part. I'm sorry.
Audrey, we may have to do the same thing for Coach Elliott. We'll get it prepped here in a second. Coach, for those that aren't familiar with yourself and Cary Christian and the school, let's get everybody familiar with you.
Oh, great. Well, Cary Christian School's been around for 25 years. We've been playing 8-man football for about 15 years. Didn't play anything before that.
Oh, wow.
We're a small school of about 225 high school students. We do have more students K through 8, but we've been really fortunate to have a great season this last year. We were led by we had 9 seniors, and that was our first taste of what it means to be a champion in the state, and we're excited for another chance at it this year.
Now, Coach, what are the differences? Because I noticed there's the 2 conferences, or 2 divisions, the Big 8 and Colonial Carolina. What's the differences between the 2?
So our division's a little bit, the schools are a little bit bigger. The other division, I think there's 5 schools in that division that, some of the high schools are only 50 or 60 kids.
Oh, wow.
And so, it used to be one big division, used to be kind of an open division. I wish we could kind of go back to that because, as we all know, with 8-man football, at least here in North Carolina, you could have 300 kids and only 15 football players like we do.
Right, right.
Or you could have 50 kids and there's no other sports to play, and so 25 of them play football, right?
There you go.
But yeah, we do get to play a lot of those schools non-conference, over the years.
Coach, talk a little bit about some of the guys that you're going to miss from last year, and then some of the guys that you're looking forward to step up this upcoming season. Kind of give some of your guys a shout out.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Again, we were led by a bunch of seniors this last year, including our all-state quarterback, Luke Harvey, who, despite some offers to play at the next level, has decided to just attend NC State and be a student there. And I think that's a great choice for him. He's a great kid. He's a great leader of our program. Really I told this last group, these guys that just graduated, that they were going to change the trajectory of CCS football. And that's exactly what they did in a big way. So I miss Luke a lot. He was an amazing arm talent. Probably could have played Division I if we didn't have COVID. And, he had a chance to put up some different numbers. I think he would have gotten looked. Of course, the recruiting process right now is really skewed towards the transfer portal and things like that. So, we got an uphill battle with those issues, and the fact that we're 8-man football, doesn't necessarily help us.
Right.
And Chide Ogun, our also all-state running back, he had offers from Vanderbilt and Duke, and he decided also just to be a student at Virginia Tech. And so we'll miss those guys. They were a big part of our offense. So we're really excited about what we've got coming back. We've got, I just finalized our roster yesterday. We just came back from football camp. We got 15 kids on our varsity roster and another 10 or so 9th graders that'll dress for a lot of our games. But I'm excited. We have 15 kids and they're all going to play. We're really fast. we've got some great returners that are seniors, 3 seniors that are good leaders. We've got David Wisniewski, who was the All-State linebacker this last year. Really big kid. He's taken over at quarterback as well, and he's got a big arm. And not to play favorites, my son will be in the backfield at running back, and I think he's going to run some people over. He's he's another big kid. So we think we have some really good pieces coming back, but I feel like, as much as we were kind of dominant towards the end of the season, the team to beat in our league this year is definitely John Paul. I mean, they could have everybody back except 2 seniors who graduated, and so it'll be interesting to see how we match up against them this year.
Well, and that kind of leads, I mean, that was a perfect segue. That leads to my next question. You guys beat them for the title last year, and obviously that has to create a little bit of a rivalry. And so, other than them, I guess they would probably be one of the teams. But is there anybody else, when you look at your schedule for this season, that you kind of circle and go, okay, obviously, again, every game is important, every game matters, but this game, I'm very honed in on that week.
Yeah, I wouldn't say any games are, like you said, there's no games that are more important than others. I want to get to our scrimmage on the 16th against Father Capodanno and see if see if we can even hit anybody.
Right.
That we never know until we actually hit the field. But obviously, John Paul, they've been in the championship game and lost the last 2 years, and so they're hungry, and they've got a lot of guys back. I think they have 40 kids on their varsity team, and that's a function of, I don't think they have a soccer team.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we play boys soccer, plays the same season. We have a big soccer team, so we don't get all the soccer players on to play football. But I'd say, other than them, I think Rocky Mount Academy has a real strong returning group. They Arendelle Parrott, who's been kind of the perennial power, team in our league for a lot of years. I think had a lot of seniors, and they'll probably be kind of like us, like hoping that they have some guys that can fill in the gaps, but a little bit of an unknown. And so, and unfortunately, Grace Christian, who's been one of our crosstown rivals for many years, is trying to go into 11-man football this year, so we don't get to play them. They usually have a lot of good, talented players. But yeah, those are the teams. Rocky Mount Academy, John Paul, I think, are going to be the 2 teams that really stand out with at least enough returning players to be really strong.
Now, you guys have the opportunity, and you do have to travel, but you guys ended up getting a game scheduled with the Greenville Hurricanes out of Greenville, South Carolina. How did that come about, and how excited are you to get to kind of gauge your guys against some 8-man from another state?
Yeah, that was one of my goals kind of at the end of the season. And, you see it in regular high school football where schools will travel. And I thought, what would be fun? I don't know. Could we travel somewhere? Where would we go? We used to play some teams in Virginia, and we hated that drive because they were in our conference, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
brutal to drive for 4 hours and then play a football game. But no, we're excited to play the Hurricanes. I think we don't know what to expect playing 8-man school. They've probably been practicing all year round.
Right.
They don't have the rules that we generally have, and I know they have a lot of players on their roster. But we kind of got hooked up there with the Gatlinburg Bowl. They helped us out and introduced us to some schools that might be interested in some non-conference games. And so yeah, we're excited to go down there. A little bit of a road trip. We get to spend the night in Greenville and play them over Labor Day weekend on that Saturday the 3rd. So we'll see how that happens. We're still hoping that we can get this other game. We have a game with Holly Hill Academy from South Carolina. They're the 2-time defending state champs, and they were planning on coming up here, and they had to cancel. And now we might be able to get back on the schedule. So we're hoping we might be able to still get them in the door here in September.
Well, and a shout out to Rocky Top Sports World and Andrew Caps, them doing an awesome job with that All-American game at setting up stuff like this. That's I think that's one of the goals they kind of wanted to do, and it's happening. So a big shout out to them. Coach, for those that aren't familiar with
too familiar with them, I've seen them on Twitter. We exchanged a couple phone calls, and I didn't even know about the Gatlinburg Bowl until after it happened this year. And so
right.
we're hoping we might be able to send a couple kids over there to play at the end of the season.
That would be awesome. And I'm looking at your schedule. Your championship game is, kind of mid-November, which kind of stinks because you got Florida the second week of November, and man, can't really work that out. But I'd love to, it'd be interesting to see how you guys match up with other schools. And talking about that, for those that aren't familiar with North Carolina 8-man and the style of play, how does that work?
Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask.
Right.
We've decided to really play a spread, kind of a pistol spread option style of football. I think that fits with, the types of kids we get at our school, which are usually very skinny, fast kids. We don't get any linemen. My starting line averages about 170 pounds.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we have to find a way to get our playmakers the ball in space. Other schools, John Paul, I don't know if you've seen any of their film. They run it 98% of the time, and they have a 300-pound running back this year and last year, and they give him the ball and they say go try to tackle him.
No, no way.
So yeah,
Three.
it's kind of a rugby scrum. So that's not my style of football, but hey, it works for them, and that's the way they play. And and everyone else is kind of in between, I would say. There's not a lot of passing in our league, unfortunately, and I think that's just a matter of you got to develop quarterbacks. If you want to have any kind of passing game, you got to develop your quarterbacks starting when they're in seventh grade, which is what we do. So we've been doing that on our JV team for a number of years, and it's got benefits. We're seeing the benefits of that. We've got a strong pipeline of quarterbacks and wide receivers and that'll help us into the future.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you guys being the defending conference champs, state champs, do you guys feel any more of or do you feel any bit of a little bit of a target on your back that when teams come to play you and go, hey, if we can knock them off, and does that add any pressure, or does it maybe give some positive motivation to you and the guys?
Yeah, we talked about that at camp this last week. I think that there is a target on our back. We're not going to surprise anybody like we did this last year. For many years, our school really struggled to be competitive. And so, no one really expected us when we arrived on their field to give them a game. And now I think they know that we're a force to reckon with, and we're not going to surprise anybody. We got surprised by John Paul last year in the middle of the season. They put together a very nice defense to stop us, and they beat us 18-6 in the middle of the year. And we studied that film pretty hard, and we're able, when we beat them in the championship game, we put up 72 points. So um, it's something where I feel like our kids feel a little bit intimidated by it, and we just have to get them to overcome that. It's okay. It's okay to be good, and it's okay to be, to have other people wanting to take a shot at you. I mean, that's what champions do,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So yeah, we're season. My coaches, and I'm so blessed to have such great coaches. We would not have the success that we have without our coaching staff, all the way down to our JV staff, and the way they develop our kids and the character they're trying to help them build as young men. And so, we're confident, but we're not cocky. We want to take it one game at a time and see what happens. It's a long season, and I know for us, it's about staying healthy. Last year we had a lot of big injuries, and we were able to overcome. And this year we just hope and pray we can stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question, and you may not have much of an answer, or really not have an answer, but for me, not being familiar with North Carolina 8-man, I noticed there's not a ton of 8-man schools in Western North Carolina. A lot of it is in East and a little bit more down South. Do you have any idea why, or could we get some that maybe are a little bit closer to Nashville? I'd love to get to North Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know. I have only been coaching for a few years, and I didn't even know what 8-man was until 6 years ago when I joined the JV staff. So yeah, it is interesting. We're probably the furthest west of all schools, and we're here in the Raleigh area.
Wow.
Almost everybody else is on the eastern side, and the smaller Christian schools or private schools on the western side of the state, if they play football, they just play 11. And the 11-man conference, unfortunately, is dominated by the big Charlotte schools, and I don't know if we ever got to the point we could play 11 man. I don't know if I'd even want to do that. I mean, those schools have 50 or 60 kids, and they're kind of like football factories that they get to play 11 man. So I don't know. I'd love to have a few more schools play 8 man. Maybe they don't know about it. Maybe they think it's not the same. It's not real football, but we all know it is, just with a few fewer guys.
Absolutely.
There are some public schools here that are finally that are actually playing 8 man, even though there's no public school conference. That's just
Really?
because they don't have enough kids. So there's a couple schools again out in the eastern part of the state. Columbia High School is one of them. I forget the other one, and they are starting to play 8-man football, just kind of a non-conference schedule. So I think it's going to become more and more popular. As more of these schools, it's hard to convince, I think, a lot of kids to play football these days, and you don't want to go into an 11-man season with a 20-man roster. It's just almost not doable, and you certainly can't be competitive at the higher levels. And so, I mean, I hope and pray 8-man gets a little bit more popular. It'd be great to have a much bigger conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and good luck on the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys do, and just seeing what the season brings. Sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me. Appreciate it. Hey, go Knights. Take
No,
care.
there you go. There you go. That's Coach Josh Elliott from Cary Christian out of Cary, North Carolina, and talking about North Carolina 8-man a little bit. And here in a second, we'll bring on our last guest of the day. He is the first-year head coach at Tri-Cities Christian. We'll get to that in just a second, but really interesting stuff. Really, it's that I was really hoping, there was a little bit more of an explanation because, if you look at it, there is no 8-man in the western part of North Carolina, which would be a little bit easier travel for us. Not, too much. It'd be a little bit farther than what Tri-Cities is, but it wouldn't be the 8 or 9 hour drive to East or North Carolina. So I'd love to get to North Carolina. South Carolina is a little bit closer, so we may be able to get a game down there. But joining me now is the first-year head coach at Tri-Cities Christian, who is bringing football back for the first time in a long time. It's Coach Jeremy Boskin. Coach, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Coach, can you hear me?
I can hear you a little bit.
There you go. Audrey, again, we might have to do the same thing. We'll get it hammered out. Coach, for those that aren't familiar with Tri-Cities, I mentioned you're bringing football back for the first time in a while, and you're a first-year coach there. So just for anybody that's not familiar, let's get everybody up to speed.
Yeah, I think we're coming back, I guess you could say, but then in the same sentence you could say it's the first year. The Tri-City Christian School that used to play 8-man, and they also played some 11-man, and actually they were in the same building we are and everything like that. They dissolved in 2020 and were bought out by a new Lakeway Christian schools that bought out the school, and now we are Tri-City Christian Academy, which is part of the Lakeway schools.
Right.
And Lakeway has an 11-man program based out of Morristown, Tennessee. They're a private school in Tennessee, and in the way Tennessee does it, they are Division II. Right now they are Single A, but they are about to move up to 2A because they've grown substantially
Oh, wow.
over the last couple of years. So we are the little brother to their school. And actually the building we are in used to be the old Tri-City Christian School that used to play 8-man and stuff like that. And now we are Tri-City Christian Academy. I know that sounds crazy and a lot more information you probably want, or your listeners even want. But we're going to be in the building we're at for the next, I guess, till 2024. And I guess that's where we're a little different. We have a $85 million campus being built 15 miles down the road, which we will call home in 2024.
So you guys are almost in a Cleveland Brown situation where you're not the you took the same name, you're just not kind of the same name. You just it's another group.
Yes, we're it's a different ownership of the school. So we have transitioned. I guess it was 2020 they transitioned, and then this year, 2022, this will be the first year we've ever had football for TCA, and we have about K through 12. We have about 365 kids, and in the high school right now we have about 80.
So we've talked to coaches before that started up football programs at schools, but every situation's a little bit different. What are some of the unique challenges that you guys had to deal with, that you had to deal with getting the team up and running and getting them ready for this first season?
Okay, I can hear you a little bit. I think you asked about what the challenges.
What are some of the challenges that you guys had to deal with?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And getting ready for the season.
I guess my fourth head coaching job, and my wife and I think we're just a glutton for punishment. We take over really, really bad programs and try to rebuild and reorganize the athletic department, the football program. We take our lumps and we build it up, and we kind of go on to the next one. But this than any of them we've ever been at, because I guess for one, building a private Christian school from scratch is very difficult.
Right.
And then because one, we don't have kids zoned for us, like a lot of your listeners and a lot of the schools that you guys cover and stuff. We don't have kids zoned for us. And honestly, we're in a region where the public schools are pretty good.
Right.
So it's kind of the first private Christian school in this area. So you factor that we're building a program from scratch, and that just the whole private school is new to the area. We don't have kids zoned for us, so we're constantly like in the community and building flag programs and quarterback training sessions, and constantly trying to get out in front of them and show them what we can do for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to give you a chance to shout out some guys that obviously you can't shout out guys that are coming back from last year. But who are some of the guys that in your spring practices and your training camp, your summer practices? Who are some guys that you were really, really excited to see what they can do this upcoming season?
Oh man, I mean honestly, right now I could probably list our whole 16-man roster.
Well, go through it. Go through it. I got time.
So we just got back from team camp, and we had 18 kids go to team camp, and we do kind of team camp, remember the Titan style,
right?
Where it's kiss mommy and daddy goodbye, load up on the bus. And, we go to Tusculum University, which really isn't too far from us, but they have an indoor facility and great dorms and chow halls, so the kids don't have it that bad.
Right.
So, but it's just a way to get away, and we practice, and we have family talks where we kick everybody out, and it's just us kind of talking. We let some of the kids share their testimonies. We have guest speakers come in and like talk to them, and then obviously we're on the field where we're breathing fire on them. So it was a great experience. We went with 18, and now looking at the roster that we'll submit to you guys, we'll probably have about 16. We had two young men that we had to have a little heart-to-heart with, that maybe this isn't the best thing for them right now. The priorities weren't quite lining up to what the expectations of the team. So when you're dealing with a small roster and you have to let a couple kids go, that's tough.
Yep.
Especially when they're some of your best players. But we have a quarterback who's our only senior right now on the roster, Micah Turner, and he has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he's going to be a preacher one day, and he's going to run a church. And the way he runs, his presence in the locker room, and the way he is with the coaches, I mean, he is, exactly what you want if you're going to have one senior. He's exactly what you'd like. But I think we're also a little bit different in the sense that we really don't have that many skill kids. We are very, very lineman heavy.
Oh, wow.
And the linemen we do have are really good. I've been extremely happy with them. Coming from a 2A private school in Chattanooga, I mean, we got a couple kids that I'm pumped about. We have Josh White, who's going to be a rising junior. He's going to be one of our tight ends. We have an Elijah Singleton, big old athletic kid who's going to play some tight end for us as well. We got a new transfer in, Slade Blevins, who's been a presence at guard. Tanner Peltier, who's also been at guard. We got two kids, Brady Boskin and Trent Hawkins, who've been rotating in at center and have been, sometimes that center position is one of the scariest ones you got. And they've done a great job. And now we're still learning how to get into a stance and what offsides means and little things like that. So, I mean, it is literally square one where we're starting with these young men. But I'm telling you, you talk about a breath there and getting to the roots of football, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
You talk about being at the school in Chattanooga and leaving there and going to Tri-Cities. What drew you to that situation to where you wanted to help build that program back up? I know you mentioned you like to, you said you and your wife are a glutton for punishment, but is there something that you kind of looked at and you said, man, I can't pass this opportunity up?
It was we definitely weren't looking. It was a God thing, and it just happened. But Boyd Buchanan's in a great spot right now. We took it over. They were 0-10, and they were transitioning to the private school sector of Tennessee, which is very, very, very competitive. You're dealing with the Trent Dilfers of the world and the Ingle Martins of the world, and it's a very competitive league. So transitioning to the financial aid and how that works in the state of Tennessee was tough, but I think we did a fantastic job. I think we did one of the best recruiting classes in all of Chattanooga for like 3 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
And the way it's built, I mean, they now have all football down through 6U and 8U and 10U and flag programs established. It's really become like a shining spot. We're really happy about about the way it is. And it's been built so solid that, I mean, the winningest coach in the history of Tennessee, Gary Rankin, I mean, he came over, and after some conversations, I mean, he left Alcoa to take it over, if that tells you anything.
Oh, wow.
Who's won 17 state championships. He's not going to leave Alcoa and that thing, not just for anything. So we're really happy the way that was. But this neck of the woods is where my wife is from.
Gotcha.
Her parents are here. So
say no more. That explains it.
You know how it goes.
That explains it.
She's made several moves for me. So when this one came available and she wanted to listen, we were definitely. And the vision of the school, the heart of the administration, the vision of the administration, I mean, is absolutely amazing. The way they're building it, they're doing it the right way. So that really turned us on. And obviously, when you're looking at an $85 million school with Division I facilities and indoors and a stadium with suites, I mean, that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you guys, first year of the program, you guys were going to be independent, and then you got the opportunity. You joined Seek. How exciting is it that in your first year you guys have something to play for? You've got a postseason, you've got a championship game, and you've got a chance to create some rivalries with some conference opponents.
We are pumped about that. I mean, getting the call from you that one day, I was on the mower, and for you to say that you had a spot for us in your league, I mean, that made our year, because we weren't just out there just playing games and floating around. But now our kids had a purpose and had something to work for, and it's a big step. But we're excited about it. We're glad for the opportunity, appreciative for the opportunity. And then just seeing the schools that are in it. I mean, it's a very competitive league. We're looking forward to the competition. We're looking forward to the road trips together. And I mean, there's a lot of programs I think that kind of go I guess quote unquote the traditional route, where it's like, oh, we're gonna lift for a year, then play JV 11 man, and then play JV 11 man, and then basically take their beat for 4 or 5 years. And I mean, I guess the 8-man is something I've admired for a long, long time. Bob Ateka at Grace Baptist is a good friend of mine, and to see what he was able to do last year and like build hope within his community and like really rally that football program around. They had a magical season, and I mean, I think Tennessee's a couple steps behind the rest of the Floridas and the Georgias and the Texases. That I think it'll come for what you guys are building. It's really going to grow here real soon. And I mean, just to build a program and start that way rather than go and just take your lumps and try to play the same game the Maryvilles and stuff like that they're doing. I think this is the best fit, and we're appreciative for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think you guys have an advantage with your location and 99% of the teams you play at your place having to drive at least 3 hours or so, 2.5 maybe.
That has been a little bit of an issue, but I mean the reality for us is as we do transition to like TWSAA, hopefully like years down the road, that when we get to it's going to be the same case. There's going to be stuff across the different places we're going to have to go, and I think our away games right now take us to Raleigh, North Carolina against St. David, take us to Franklin Classical, take us to Grace Baptist in Chattanooga. So, I mean, will it be kind of stink being on I guess on the bus that long? I mean, you could say that, but I kind of look at it as you get a chance to spend some time with the kids and hang out and road trips together, and you can't beat it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I asked all these other coaches this question, kind of got the same answer, but I'm going to ask you: when you look at your schedule, and I know you're coming into this blind, you don't know a whole lot about a lot of these schools. You talked about your relationship with Grace Baptist. Is that a game where, when you look at your schedule, you say, "Hey, I'm really excited about this game"? Obviously they're all important, but I'm really excited about this game. Or is there another one that you guys look at, or that you look at and you get really excited about?
I mean, the one that comes to mind right now, I mean, but just without giving just coach speak, is I mean, we get to play one game this year on our campus, and the rest of our home games are being played at our sister school. But we get to play one home game at our campus, and I think we're pretty excited about that because we don't have bleachers, so it's kind of bring your lawn chair.
There you go.
It's on top of a hill. It's a beautiful view of the mountains, and you got an airport close by. You see all kinds of planes and helicopters coming in, surrounded by cows and different livestock. It is a beautiful atmosphere. And to get up on that hill and have all our people come with their chairs and lawn chairs, and our boys get to go out there and do their thing, I think that's one I've got circled right there.
That'll be an awesome, awesome experience. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on with me, and taking the time to talk. And good luck up on the upcoming season. It looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
We appreciate all you do and what you do for 8 Man and just getting our kids out there. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll talk to you later. All right, that's Coach Jeremy Boskin from Tri-Cities Christian, and going into their first season as a school having football, and first season for him in 8-man at the school, building the program up. It'll be interesting to see what he can do. Um, Here really quick, here at the end of the show, mentioned there's a couple of Jamborees coming up this Friday night. There'll be two Jamborees, one at Christian Community School in White House, and then there'll also be one at Franklin Christian Academy. They'll have four teams in there: Franklin Christian, Franklin Classical, Freedom Cowboys, and Providence Christian. And then on Friday night, also at Christian Community, they'll be having a jamboree as well. And on Friday night, you'll have Christian Community, the Tennessee Heat, Lighthouse Christian, Grace Baptist, and Lancaster playing each other in a combination on Friday night. And then on Saturday night, you'll bring in quite a few different schools, a couple crossovers. Christian Community, Zion Christian, Franklin Classical, so they're playing in the FCA Jamboree on Friday night, and then the CCS on Saturday night. So Franklin High School, Lighthouse Christian, the plan is for them to come back on Saturday and play again. Sacred Heart of Jesus High School, Tennessee Heat will be back. And then South Haven Christian, which last couple years since South Haven Christian Community started playing and South Haven came into that conference, they've kind of wrapped up Saturday night with the Springfield versus White House, the Battle of 76 Robertson County game. And then, CCS Tennessee Heat, they've got an old rivalry, and they kind of love to kick things off. So you've got CCS and Zion kicking off on Saturday night, which they've never played varsity against each other, so kind of a first-time matchup for them. And it'll be a good opportunity to see some of the schools like Lighthouse, see what they bring to the table. They lost some guys from last year. They've got Brian Hollis coaching them now. Before I continue, and I don't want to forget this. We mentioned on our social media, but I want to give a big ass shout out to Deuce Bragg. Speaking of Lancaster Christian, who will be playing in the Jamboree on Friday night, he's officially committed to Swanee University of the South, the college. St. Andrew Swanee, the high school that used to have 8-man, and then Swanee University of the South, he is committed to play football there after his senior year this year. So big congrats to them. Really, really happy. It's been a while since I've heard of an 8-man guy committing before his senior year. So that just kind of shows you the talent and the how special he is as a player. Been a varsity starter since 8th grade. But on Friday night, like I mentioned, we got Christian Community and Heat, Lighthouse Christian. We'll have to see what they bring to the table. Grace Baptist, having run the table last year, gone undefeated, won the conference championship. They've lost quite a few guys. They've lost their quarterback, Cooper Kinnett. They've lost some of their linemen and some of their receivers. They do have guys like Avery Iverson. They've got Bo Swanson coming back. They've got Pierce Smith, I believe, will be a senior this upcoming year. Carson Kinnett, Wesley Thompson. So they've got some of those guys that'll be coming back. And, I'll be interested to see how they do, how they step up to the challenge. Some of the guys were starters last year. Some of them weren't. And so, Coach Ateka is going to have to get them up to speed, and they'll have to, really perform. But playing Lighthouse and Lancaster Friday night be kind of a good measuring stick for them. Especially when we mentioned Lancaster having Deuce Bragg and having some of those guys coming back from last year. And then on Friday night, also on Friday night at FCA, you've got the Jamboree with those 4 teams. You've got Freedom Cowboys, which, they lost a lot of guys from last year. Lost guys like Josh Butler, Raymond Hunt. They do have, I believe, Oliver Johnson coming back. Let me double check that because I don't want to misspeak. But it'll be a big year for them. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. Franklin Classical, having Coach Steve Adams in for the first, it being his first season, building up the team. It'll be interesting to see how they match up. And then FCA, having a great season last year, couldn't get it done to get to the championship. Struggled with Grace Baptist a little bit. They struggled with Freedom. Freedom knocked them off last year. So we'll have to see how they bounce back. I think they have quite a few guys coming back, but we'll have to see how Coach Johnson and Coach Hill get them up and running. And then, of course, the last team in that Jamboree, Providence Christian, didn't lose a whole lot of guys. Let me double check just to make sure. But quite a few guys coming back and, going into their 3rd year of having football. First year, no one really knew what to expect. They didn't have the best season. And, Coach Ferguson, he told us and he's told everybody, if you're going to beat us, that first year was the year to beat us. And then last year had a pretty solid season. I believe they finished 4th in their division, which, that division had Franklin Christian, it had Lancaster, it had Grace. So as a tough division, that is tough competition. But last year they had 4 seniors on the team, so quite a few guys that they bring back. And it'll be interesting to see what they bring to the table, especially in that Jamboree. And then on Saturday night, you have the day 2 of the CCS Jamboree. You've got Christian Community, Zion Christian, Franklin Classical, who's playing two Jamborees in 2 days. Lighthouse is supposedly going to be back. Sacred Heart will be there. Tennessee Heat will be there. And then South Haven will be there. So for CCS, you look at them, and it had a freshman quarterback last year, Caden Poulin. You had Will Adams, really good running back. He'll be a senior this upcoming year. Jake Gustafson will be a senior receiver. And they did lose Asher Nix, one of their top receivers. They lost a couple guys from last year. Hudson Mortimer will be back. Aaron Malham, one of their running backs that carried a lot of weight for him last year. So, they'll be interested to see who steps up for him and who continues to grow. If you've got a guy like Caden, who was a starter last year as a freshman, he's got a lot of upside and a lot of positive things he can kind of grow into as the season goes on. Zion Christian, everything that's happened with them over the offseason, and then bringing Coach Bethard. The last thing I heard was the roster was a little bit smaller, but we'll see what he can get out of these guys. They'll take on Seek opponent Franklin Classical, who is another young team that's trying to build and trying to grow. So that'll be an interesting matchup to see them. Classical Lighthouse, same way. I feel like the teams are pretty matched up pretty well on Saturday night. Lighthouse Sacred Heart, a team that they had about I think about a 500 season last year, if I'm not mistaken. Had some really big wins, had a couple losses, and they have some guys that they lost, but a lot of guys that they're bringing back too. So they match up with Lighthouse, and then they match up with also with Seek opponent Tennessee Heat, and the Heat. Obviously losing Carter Sutton. Well, they lost him earlier last season, but losing Carter Sutton to graduation, they do have guys like Eli Whitaker, Aiden Luchtefeld, Luke Matthews, Wyatt Sutton. Some of those guys are coming back from last year. They did lose. Where is it at? They did lose a couple of those receivers from last year. You know what? I do want to give them a shout out because they were a big part of that team. And they really played. They played well. Let's see. It is DeAndre Martinez and Keandre Hatfield. Those are two guys that they lost from last year. So it'll be interesting to see how the team rebounds and who steps up at receiver for the Tennessee Heat. And then, of course, you've got South Haven Christian coming into the Jamboree. And, had Ben Sorto as their running back last year. He kind of carried the load for them. They also had Noah Starnes. But we'll have to I want to see who steps up for them this year. I want to see who takes over. Had a 6-3 record last year, got to the playoffs, got knocked off by Franklin Christian, but they lost their quarterback as well, and so I want to see who steps up at quarterback, who steps up at running back rather. Trying to see, they haven't added a roster to Max Preps, but looking at last year's seniors, mentioned Ben Sorto. Mention their quarterback. Well, they didn't put a roster on Max Preps either. So, let's see if I made a note of them here. Okay, so Elijah Ashley on the line was one of their seniors last year. Noah Starnes, Jaden Batson was the quarterback. They lost him to graduation. Braden Barnhill, Isaac Taylor, Ben Sorto was the running back. They lost him to graduation as well. So guys like Matthew Royalty, Sorto's little brother Caleb, Gabriel Dang, who was Manny Dang's little brother. You got to wonder what kind of, what he brings to the table, what he can do for that team. Jake Atkinson will be a senior this upcoming year. Of course, his older brother Drew was playing for them, and he graduated. So, it'll be interesting to see who comes up and who comes up from JV as well. Who steps up into the varsity the varsity level and really kind of takes on responsibility for that team and takes it to the next level. So that's what will happen on the Jamboree on Saturday, the matchup. So again, CCS Zion, Classical Lighthouse Lighthouse Sacred Heart Heat South Haven, and then South Haven CCS to close it out. The way they'll play it will be, for those that aren't familiar with Jamboree setup or how it works, each matchup will be a quarter, and there will be 14 plays from scrimmage from the 25. Each team will get 7 offensive, and then they'll be on defense for 7 of those plays. 20-second play clock between the plays, which most of the time in the scrimmage you can get coach will be getting calls in, so really kind of get used to that. So really kind of script the first 7 plays, and then there'll be a 7-minute regulation time to follow. So actual clock. I don't know that there's timeouts. I'm trying to remember back. I don't remember if there are or not. But there'll be no live special teams. Ball will be placed at the own 15 on punts and scores. So there'll be a 6-minute break between each quarter. No overtime. And then, of course, you'll have teams warming up off the field. A couple different places they can warm up. So they will. So they'll kind of keep it moving, keep it rolling. It's always interesting to see these teams that they play the first matchup, and then They have to play a fresh team, which of course they get to come in as the fresh team in the first game, and then they get to take on a fresh team. So it's always interesting to see that kind of how each team responds to how they are in that first quarter versus how they are in that second quarter, what their conditioning like, what their how in shape they are. So that's always interesting to see with each individual team how they do. But that'll be Friday and Saturday night. We'll be there Friday night. We're gonna do a dry run. So if we don't talk a whole lot Friday night, don't be offended. We're trying to get things hammered out and ironed out for the season. Saturday night, I might come by. This is the CCS one. Saturday night, may come by, check out some of the games, some of the stuff going on. I know my wife's not happy because this past Friday night was the last Friday night with no live football, but I am ecstatic because we are less than a week from banging hats. Live high school football. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. I'm pumped. Just knocked it off the table. So excited. Anyways, that'll do it for Extreme Talk presented by Complete. Again, Complete Real Estate and Complete Wealth Management, your one-stop shop for financial coaching and asset management. Fairlife Core Power Protein, work hard, recover harder. And we're brought to you by Brent Atkinson with Wycart Realtors, the Realty Group. James Shannon, producer Audrey, director Jack, behind the camera. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to the coaches that came on the show today. Sorry about all the issues. We'll try to get it worked out. But we'll talk to y'all next week, and maybe we'll see you this upcoming weekend at one of the Jamborees. Feel free to say hi. Feel free to say hi. See ya!